Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast. It's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most here on The Rundown. 2A Views, conservative news, and Craig, guess what day it is?
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
That's right, folks. Hump Day is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I always say, the fun is all in the trying.
Let's give it a try, Craig. Let's do what we can.
Let us definitely give it a try. I will tell you, I will begin at the end of the program. When we're done with the program, I've actually already cracked open a bottle of Horse Soldier, and looking forward to getting a few tastes.
My Horse Soldiers are over there.
There you go. I've only got one of them. Unfortunately, the Total Wine and More here in the Sacramento area only had one. But you know, I saw it. I had to get it. First of all, I love the bottle. If you want nothing more than to just get a cool bottle,
yeah,
it's a cool looking bottle. It'll look really nice on your shelf.
It definitely does, and doesn't feel too bad in your belly either.
No, it doesn't. In fact, so they had, if I recall, because they didn't have an event this year, but they had an event last year, and there were three of them. Yep. The 84 proof one was pretty good. I think it was like they had like 100 proof one that was kind of the middle of the road.
Right.
It tasted stronger than it really needed to for the proof that it was. But then they had one that was like, what, 140, 150 proof, something like that.
It was like 120.
120. And it tasted as smooth as the 84. It was by far of the three the best, in my opinion, especially when you're talking about bang for your buck.
Yeah, listen, all three of them would help you relax quite nicely. Yeah.
Yes, they all taste delicious. If I'm ranking those three, that's the way I would rank them. The top shelf is obviously top shelf for a reason. Yep. You don't want to call it bargain basement because it's not cheap, but it's not inexpensive. It's very reasonably priced, but their lowest octane, we'll call it, or lowest proof, was probably number 2.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I will be partaking of some of that this evening. Not a whole lot, but I've had to start. I wanted to start to have some on Thursdays, but I've realized that if I partake of, I don't even have to like really drink on Thursdays. I play basketball Saturday mornings, but if I partake of almost anything Thursday night, needless to say, my Friday morning basketball game is a little off kilter. So I try Wednesday instead of Thursday.
Gotcha. I understood. Although you're probably a little bit looser while you're out there,
Yeah, if we were playing on Thursday night, I'd definitely be looser.
Yeah.
The body does not how shall we say, does not recover from the effects of alcohol as quickly as they did when I was a Ute.
Well, we all have our crosses to bear, Craig. That's yours. So,
There you go. And I'm just fine with it. Just means I just have to plan better.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
And how about you? How was your attempt to begin the weekend going?
Just getting by. We'll get there. It'll happen.
There you go. We are always getting there. Of course, you take off time in general, but you pretty much work at least every Saturday because you got the radio show.
Yes. Yeah. There's sporadic off.
That's more like fun though, isn't it? Or is that work?
On the air is fun. Prepping before it is work. Yeah.
Yes. I hear you. Yeah, prepping can be a pain in the patootie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to bring that word back, patootie.
Cutie patootie.
Oh, excuse me. Ooh. Okay, all right, folks. Before we get into the program today, because we got some interesting things to talk about, we're going to start off with a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yep. Hitman Industries, that's hitmanindustries.net. They got AR barrels there, rifle caliber, pistol caliber, any link you need for your next AR build, rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Public Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. If you want the best in tactical concealed holsters on the market, get on over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWG holsters.com, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. That's all one word, no spaces, all caps. Get yourself a nice little discount. And if you want the best in field gear, tactical gear, web gear, security, law enforcement, EMS, fire, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, they probably got it. Get your group together, get your agents together, place an order at uscombatgear.com where you can get everything except the.
That's right, folks. Please take a moment and visit our sponsors. Folks, look, they are all supporters of the Second Amendment. They are all good American, solid organizations. They are the folks who are fighting for us. And I can honestly and truly say that we personally know every single one of our sponsors, and they are they're doing it. They are the sorts of companies that you want to exist, that you want to thrive here in these United States. So take some time, visit their websites. All you have to do is follow the links in the description to this program. Go there, check them out, spend some money with them, and make sure you tell them it was the guys over at The Rundown that sent you. Also want to encourage you, if you're watching the program live, and I see that there's a number of you who are watching us live today, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, go ahead and comment. We would love to hear where you're watching us from, what you think about the program, what you think about the topic, whether you agree with us or not. Matter of fact, we prefer for you to disagree with us because that gives us the opportunity to mock you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
Hey.
And just so y'all know, we don't mock you because we want to be mean. We mock you because it's entertaining, specifically to us.
Because we like it. That's why we do it.
We do most definitely like it. All right, let us go ahead and get into today's news stories. And we're going to start. I've been putting this story off because I wanted to make sure the mic was here to discuss this one because you may or may not have heard, but there were some election irregularities in the 2020 presidential election. I know, shocking, right? There are a number of different issues taking place in various different states. Obviously, the guy who on paper won the election, or at least who everyone says won the election, Joe Biden, wasn't really going to do any investigating, was not going to look into anything, was not going to look into any of the allegations because, well, he wanted to remain president. So one of the things that President Donald Trump has vowed to do is to make sure to get to the bottom of these election fraud allegations. And as a part of that, the FBI went and got a warrant and raided a Fulton County. Now, this is the biggest county in Georgia, but a Fulton County elections office in order to obtain ballots and other ballot information or information related to the ballots and counting in order to, I guess we'll figure it out. But as a part of that investigation, now this is a week ago. So this story right here is from a week ago. So no, it's not happening right now. They're not raiding them again. But I want you to kind of get the context of what was going on at the time and what we at least knew then about the investigation.
Fox News is learning FBI agents are on site at a Fulton County election office in Georgia, where they are conducting a search. David Spunt's got more details for us on this developing story. David?
Hi, Sandra. This is a satellite office for the Fulton County Elections Office. The FBI Atlanta press office confirming this, not giving many details, saying that the FBI is executing a court-authorized law enforcement action. No other details at this time, but we do know via sources a judge signed off on this warrant, allowing these agents, as you see them, enter this building to take items from the inside. Now, we're told that this is a sealed matter before the court, meaning details are now limited. Now, agents are looking at documents, phones, computers. We are told via multiple sources this is related to the 2020 presidential election. Now, we don't know specifically what agents are taking to the FBI lab, items that may eventually become part of a federal case. You may remember President Trump was charged in Fulton County with trying to overturn the 2020 election results. That's Brad Raffensperger right there. He is the Secretary of State of Georgia. That is the Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis. Now, Raffensperger spoke to President Trump back in early 2021. And Trump said that he wanted to find some 11,000 votes to help win the election. Raffensperger said that he felt pressure from Trump. Willis then took Donald Trump to trial. That didn't happen. In 2023, she said that her prosecution was all buttoned up, ready to go, but it was completely derailed after it was revealed she had an intimate relationship with the top prosecutor on her team, and it could have tainted the case. Late last year, a judge dismissed the case in its entirety. It's important to point out, Sandra, that a judge typically would not just sign off on a warrant so the FBI could go on what's known as a fishing expedition. It's likely the FBI and DOJ presented some credible evidence to the judge for the judge to go ahead and give the green light. No immediate comment from.
So once again, so as of that point, there was no real comment except there wasn't big media uproar about the fact that Tulsi Gabbard was there, the DNI, and quite frankly, the director of national intelligence. And the reason she was there was because obviously election fraud. I keep saying erection flawed because the last few years, in order to keep us from losing our channel, we would say erection flawed, in order to not say election fraud, and plus to be funny, But anyway, but there's a lot more to this story, and I wanted Mike to be able to be here to kind of lay out why is this a national? I mean, obviously elections are national security, but why is the DNI there?
Okay, so let's take a half a step back, right? We're talking about the 2020 election, and I know, Craig, that that's a touchy subject for some, but unlike the Democrats, which don't know which way to steer their message, right? I believe the Republicans, the Conservative Party, looked at this and said, listen, the more we talk about the 2020 election, this is in 2021, 2022, it makes us look like sore losers. It makes it look like crybabies. So nobody's talking about it out loud. I think we all believe it to some level, Craig, and I saw, I think, enough evidence to where I'm convinced it happened. But then again, we had a man trying to win an election, and rather than again look like the sore loserville there, they left it alone. So let's talk about what's different now than what's different in 2021, 2022 when they were talking about this. Craig, what significant event has occurred in the last 30 days or so? Well, I'll tell you what's happened is we've taken him by force, Nicolas Maduro. If you recall, just go back through your history. Nicolas Maduro with Chavez, when Chavez was president, they were the ones that developed the software. Their company developed the software to beat U.S. electronic ballot boxes. Okay? Sound weird? I don't know. We get this guy in custody, and all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there's enough evidence to go into a judge and say, Your Honor, we'd like to present this new evidence to you to get a warrant to look at these records. And that judge said, okay. What actually happened, Craig, just to be clear with the folks, is that they filed it in the courthouse down at the state office. And that judge said, no, you got to take it to this other courthouse. So they took it to a separate courthouse in a separate jurisdiction, both within Georgia there. So that's a huge deal. Why is Tulsi Gabbard there? Well, there's a certain president that signed an executive order that said the DNI was responsible for overseeing allegations of foreign election interference. And Craig, you want to know who that president was? That would have been President Biden in 2023. Okay. Then in 2025, President Trump extended that executive order. So her authority to be there comes from President Biden. So thank you, President Biden. So she was there at President Trump's direction to make sure overseeing what was going on. Again, the evidence starts to come forward that, when 2 + 2 = 4, and you've got the guy in custody now who created the program to defeat those specific machines, and he starts singing, well, guess what you're going to get? And I'll give you, Craig, just one more bit that you saw when you were putting your video up there, the video feed, the B footage. You saw an FBI agent carrying in a Halligan. It's a fireman's tool. They use those for breaking doors down. And then he also had the police battering ram with him that used to take doors down. They're walking around, Craig. You're telling me that they're walking around, there's no sense of urgency, and they can't get into the doors where the ballots are kept? that sounds like somebody at Fulton County really, 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 really doesn't want us to see those ballots. Does not want us to see them at all. They're keeping them secure, even with the warrant in hand during the raid. They won't let them in. And they said, well, guess what? The warrant says we can take via any means necessary. So we're going to. This all points to me towards, Craig, more exposure of the corruptness that we had to deal with during the Biden and the Obama administration.
And by the way, it sounds to me like, based on this article in the Atlantic, that they definitely think that MAGA's onto something. At least they know where it's going. And mind you, folks, and I think that was one of the things that was pointed out by the reporter in the very beginning in the story that I told you is this they had a warrant from a judge. So it wasn't like they just went in there all willy-nilly on a fishing expedition. They had some credible evidence that there was something there, or might be something there, that is crucial to their case or part of their case, such that they need to get the warrant. And there's got to be something there, because why is Fulton County fighting against them having this data, them having this information? I mean, if you've done nothing wrong, then what's the problem, right? What's the problem with the federal government having this access to this information about a federal election? Unless you believe there's going to be some incriminating evidence there. Now, Mike, I want to thank you for that analysis, because I'll be honest, I looked amongst a bunch of the mainstream media to try and pull all of that together, and was not having a whole lot of luck. And I'm like, okay, I know this is important. I'm trying to find the threads, and the Maduro thing was something that I did not think about, and you put that together for me. So thank you.
Yeah, it's coming down. Listen, their walls are about to come down. Listen, and what's his name? Roethlisberger there, Ratzenberger, whatever his name is, the Department of State guy in Georgia. I don't think he had any visibility on us. I think this guy stayed up there in Georgia, and he takes the reports, remember, from supervisor of elections from each county. When those supervisor of elections for each county report to him, and he certifies based on what they certified, I mean, I can see where that guy's in a spot. The president calls him and he says, what do you got? And he goes, these are the votes I have. This is the votes I have.
Right. And that's, that's part of the thing to understand, is all they have is the stuff they have. And so a lot of this is not coming from the state level. It's literally coming from, if you look at where all of the problems are, if you look at where all of the issues are, they're all in blue counties, right? They're all in counties that are controlled by Democrats, or more specifically, controlled by Trump haters.
Right.
And, and the confusion opens the door for this for potential fraud. Now, the question is, and this is the thing, if something is proven there in Fulton County, then it puts a lot more credibility and a lot more weight on some of the other counties in other parts of the country that actually made a difference in elections. And folks, I get what you're saying. I know you're like, well, do we really want to dig this up because it's going to cause people to question elections? And I'm like, you know what? I hate to say this, but if we need to question them, if they deserve to be questioned, they need to be questioned. And whether or not we find something or not, looking and finding nothing is a good thing. Looking and finding that something bad happened and punishing the people that did is also a good thing. And by the way, putting in protections to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, listen, in the same time, Craig, within the past week, we've seen things come out of Arizona, and we've seen things come out of Nevada talking about the irregularities in the votes. Now that they from somewhere, Craig, in the past 3 weeks, they've had an abundance of new information of what to look at, and they're finding it. Okay, listen, I don't believe in coincidences. Okay, all right, it's things happen because of hard work and proper planning.
So what you're saying is because they have a new house guest, they're learning some things about the house.
Exactly right. And listen, I know that there were plenty of legitimate challenges back in the day, a couple 4 years ago, that looked at this. But I also understand that there were, when judges had this stuff presented to them, the judge didn't want to go down his history as the guy who started this next civil war, because that's what you were looking at. He wanted his family to die. He didn't want him to die. Because that's what would have happened. So I get this. Now we're going through the legal process. There's been some time for the steam to settle, and they're going through it the proper way. Let me point out again, or if I didn't mention it, Fulton County, Craig, is the one where we've seen the video of them locking the doors because there was a water leak, and then pulling suitcases out from under the tables and running ballots over and over through the counting machines. But that wasn't enough for anybody back then. Let's see how it is now.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that a large number of those lawsuits that were thrown out based on the issue of standing, not whether or not they actually had merit.
Right.
They were thrown out based on standing, meaning the people filing the suit didn't have quote unquote standing or were not the proper people to be able to file the suits.
What should have happened, good folks, what Craig is saying is Donald Trump should have been the one to be the victim to file those. But instead he had his staff doing it, and they said the staff was not affected.
Yeah. Bah humbug.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of election fraud, I keep saying election fraud. The Supreme Court of the United States has greenlit California Governor Gavin Newsom's new redistricting map in order to basically steal 5 seats from California Republicans. This being reported by the folks over at the California Post. It says here, Governor Gavin Newsom's Prop 50 Passion Project scored Supreme Court approval Wednesday, handing Democrats a major strategic victory before this year's midterm elections. Newsom championed the redistricting effort, pitching it as California's answer to Texas's new congressional map from last summer that could hand Republicans up to 5 extra seats. Says drawn up by Democratic lawmakers and greenlit by voters last November, the Proposition 50 map paves the way for Democrats to grab up to 5 House seats as they chase a majority this fall. The Supreme Court's decision on the California redistricting plan follows its approval of the Texas map 2 months ago. And I think I remember saying back then that the approval of that map, when they approved that, that was pretty much going to tell you that they were going to approve California's map. And that's the thing, is what they're looking at is history. And history says redistricting takes place. And as long as it's the body who's supposed to be handling redistricting, and they put it, there was an initiative that went to the people. They put it to the people, and they handled it the way California handles elections. Handles redistricting, and it passed. So, and once again, and Texas did it the way Texas does it. So, I'll just say this. As soon as Texas did it, you knew California was going to do it. As soon as you open up the doors. Now, the one thing I will say, Mike, is now this opens up the doors for Republican states to use the same sort of tricks and tools that Democrat-controlled states have always used in redistricting. Now, some of them are going to do it. Some of them have already done it. Some of them are going to wait until after the 2020 or 2030 census to do it, which is when they normally do it. But they're going to now start to look to draw districts that are going to favor the party in charge. And Democrat states have always done it. Now Republicans are going to start to do it. I think you're going to see a dramatic shift in Congress as a result.
Yeah, and listen, Florida's already got it ready. The governor's already said he's done it. We've drawn the map already before, and you and I had the conversation about gerrymandering. And I think California, it's not over there yet either, Craig, because the one point that the recent SCOTUS gave it to them was based on their authority to do such, not based on the methodology they use, not based on the gerrymandering that they use, because that's what they did. I think you'll see that come up. Don't know if that'll be solved before the midterms, but I think you'll see that lawsuit come as well. They're going to gain more seats from Florida. They're going to gain more seats from all the red states. The good thing, Craig, when you sit down and you do the math on this, is there's only one California, but there's plenty of red states out there that are about to do this and increase those numbers.
Well, the other thing is that they act like this is a flat out win for Democrats. The truth, though, is that what they did was they took safe Republican seats and they made them competitive.
Yeah.
In order to make those safe Republican seats competitive, they had to take Democrat voters out of some safe Democrat seats and make those districts competitive as well. which means that it's not really 5 districts that are now up for grabs. It really that used to be strong Republican. There's now another 5 districts that used to be Democrat that are now up for grabs. And I can tell you that there's a real shot if Republicans do play their cards right, which they usually don't, admittedly, that Republicans could not only retain those 5 seats, but could actually win some of those other competitive seats. So you're going to have about 10 more competitive districts now in California than you once had.
Republicans usually don't, but the guy we got in the White House is pretty good about counting electoral votes and knowing where to get them from.
Well, he is, but we're talking congressional votes, and unfortunately,
same.
There are a lot of MAGA voters who don't show up when Trump is not on the ballot, and we've got to encourage those MAGA voters to show up. And the best way to do that is, how about you run some candidates who support MAGA policies?
Yeah, well, yes, I know there's a difference between electoral votes and congressional seats, but they're tied together based on population.
Yes. Yeah, just got to get them to turn out.
Yeah,
just got to get them to turn out. Another victory, a victory actually that we can be bragging about to take place. The other day, I told you about a lawsuit that had been won. It was the first ever of its kind malpractice lawsuit against doctors who, in this case in New York, who were pushing or basically did not appropriately handle a situation where you had a minor, a 16-year-old who went through a 15-year-old, I'm sorry, who decided that they wanted to attempt to change their physical characteristics in order to appear as a different gender, and then decided, no, this isn't working. This was a mistake, and then detransitioned. This person won a major lawsuit, $2 million against both the plastic surgeon as well as their psychologist. Well, now the first major medical group in the United States has actually come out and said that, we need to change our standards here. It says here the first major medical group opposes sex mutilating surgeries for minors. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons issued a position statement on Tuesday advising against sex change surgeries for minors. The position statement went to the group's 11,000 members, recommending that surgeons delay transgender-related chest, genital, and facial surgeries until the patient is at least 19 years old. The ASPS is the first major medical organization in the U.S. to reject transgender activists' ideological push to mutilate young people without sufficient evidence. Quote, consistent with ASPS's August 2024 statement that the overall evidence based on gender-related endocrine and surgical interventions is low certainty, and in light of recent publications reporting very low certainty of evidence regarding mental health outcomes, along with emerging concerns about potential long-term harms and the irreversible nature of surgical interventions in the developmentally vulnerable population, ASPS concludes there is insufficient evidence demonstrating a favorable risk-benefit ratio for pathway of gender-related endocrine and surgery interventions in children and adolescents, the position statement reads. Now, let's be very clear. They're specifically talking about kids, so they're not addressing the idea of whether or not these surgeries help anybody. What they're saying is there's no evidence that it helps kids. And right now, it's kids, it's people who had this done to them as kids who are the ones who are filing the suits, most of them. And in this particular case, it's looking like they're going to win. And this may be the first U.S. medical organization, but 7 different countries in Europe have now said they're no longer doing this for kids either, for the very same reasons. Now, you remember, Mike, it wasn't too long ago that if you dared say any of this, well, you were transphobic or you were homophobic or you were just a hater. Now all of a sudden, especially I guess when dollar signs are on the line, they're realizing, yeah, that's probably not a very good idea to be recommending these things.
Yeah. Listen, for clarity's sake, for those just listening, it's endocrine and surgical intervention that Craig was talking about. He had a little misstep there on the pronunciation.
I apologize.
No worries. But Craig, no coincidence that this came out in mid 24, right? August of 24, and we heard nothing about it, right? What was going on mid 24, right? In the heat of the election cycle, trying to figure out who was going to be the next president. And now that we have that next guy in office, all of a sudden, one of the biggest medical agencies out there in this country says, yeah, it's wrong. And we admit that it's wrong. And we probably shouldn't have done this. And we've been trying to talk about this, but we couldn't. All right. Because let's go back to the dollar sign, right? That's what we're doing. When the last administration says, listen, if you don't agree with us across the board on this, you're not going to get that funding. You're not going to get money sent to you for Medicare, Medicaid, and everything else, for your insurance, for everything else, for medications. You're going to lose. You're going to go out of business. Now, all of a sudden, they got the good green light, the handshake from the current administration to say, no, not only that, but we're improving the health industry across the board. You should come out with your study. And they have, and voila, it's magic. It's MAGA magic, Craig. It's just, once you take the corruption out of it, you get the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. Understand this. The folks who were doing this, it wasn't just out of the surgeons and whatnot, the pharmaceutical companies. They were not just doing this out of the kindness of their heart. Keep in mind, even once you have the surgeries, it doesn't stop. In other words, the complications from those surgeries are lifelong lasting, meaning you are constantly having to go in and deal with, in particular, the bottom surgery that takes place for either person, right? But then there's also the medications. They constantly have to keep taking the medications, and we're talking billions, if not trillions, of dollars that were on the line for them. And there's a reason why they don't do surgeries that don't make money, right? They don't push surgeries that don't make money. And trust me, they're pushing these because these make money. And the only thing they had to do was say, if you don't let them do it, they'll commit suicide.
Listen, Craig, I could paint wings on my car and put avgas in my tank. It's not going to make it an airplane. All it's going to do is screw up my paint and my engine for when I try and change back.
Right. Well, once again, and I'll remind y'all, look, we're talking about kids here. We're talking about kids that you should not be doing this to.
That's right.
If you are a grown adult and you've done all your research and you feel like you've gotten all the right information, all the information, and this is something you want to do, then you do you.
You're an adult. It's all you. Right.
But kids, they change their minds from minute to minute, let alone from year to year. They have no idea. Their brains are not fully developed enough to make the sort of long-term decisions. I mean, understanding the consequences and by the way, to not succumb to the level of indoctrination and suggestion that many of these psychologists and many of these advocates of these surgeries actually place upon them. So many of these folks we're talking about are dealing with things like autism and stuff like that. And, you tell them, well, look, you'll feel much, much better if you become a man, if you're a little girl.
They should be held accountable. They should be charged with crimes. Listen, 18 years old, can't sign a binding legal contract till they're 18 years old. Can't buy alcohol or firearms in most states till they're 21, right? Hell, can't rent a car till you're 25. Everybody knows what their brain is like, right? They know they're not fully developed until they get to a certain age.
Right. And anyway, that's just that. Anyway, that's where we're at. It's good to see that is happening. I will guarantee you right now, they may be the first, but they will not be the last organization to make this determination.
No. Floodgates are open now. Here it comes.
Yes, they are. All right. The MJ here in this story stands for Mother Jones. It was the only way I could make it fit on here. But y'all are familiar with the Trace. It's a group that they claim to be nonpartisan group organization that promotes, that just talks about gun violence, but it's actually they're a bunch of gun grabbers. And Mother Jones is basically the neo-Marxist organization that, wants to do the same thing, except that, they're just full neo-Marxist. They want all of the neo-Marxist agenda. Well, they decided to push this narrative in this story that I had to share with you. Minneapolis is the violent reckoning the gun rights movement has long wanted. You're going to love this. On December 31st, in the waning hours of 2025, the Washington Post reported on an internal ICE document that concerned the agency's, quote, wartime recruitment strategy, or rather its attempt to expeditiously swell its ranks of deportation officers. The memo, according to the Post, had in mind a pool of ideal candidates who lead a patriotic lifestyle, and have an interest in, quote, military and veterans affairs, physical training, gun rights organizations, and tactical gear brands. The memo's logic was easy enough to understand, since what it described, if you read between the lines, was an informal paramilitary that was waiting to be tapped. Over the last month, as violent federal occupation has unfolded in Minneapolis, where veteran immigration agents brutally killed two American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, both the memo and the new recruits it would draw into the fold began to take up outsized space in my mind. For a long time now, the gun rights movement has been animated by the promise of a violent reckoning, a sentiment nurtured by the groups that it represents and Republican politicians who seek to channel a wild, truculent energy into votes and profits. It seems the promise was being fulfilled in Minneapolis, like the fatal denouncement of a product. Anyway, of a product that had one harbinger after another. So what they're basically saying here is, you know, the new ICE folks, all these people who are now running ICE and now on the Border Patrol and the swelling of the ranks, yeah, this is the new Donald Trump gun rights Gestapo that's seeking the violent reckoning. And I'm like, this guy, this person, this author, whoever wrote this, if you really just want to talk about someone who has absolutely no idea what they're talking about or who they are talking about, you want to set them straight.
Ridiculous, Craig. Ridiculous. I mean, it's a recruiting memo, right? If I want people that are going to have to carry guns and wear tactical gear and enforce federal laws to make our borders more secure, I might want to find people that have familiarity with guns, no tactical gear, and are patriotic. I mean, if I was recruiting circus clowns, I'd find people that were good at putting on layers of makeup and could make balloon animals. That would be in my recruiting memo. This is not hard. This is not rocket science. This was a recruiting memo, and all of a sudden, the left again is trying to create something out of nothing.
Well, but even more than that, and Mike, you know, like the patriotic gun rights folks that about which they're talking, and you know that in particular the ones who talk about the violent reckoning, you know, they are not the sort of people that are going to sign up to become ICE agents.
No,
right? They are not the people that they're talking about, right? The people who do, because there are people in the gun rights community that talk about a potential violent reckoning, but they're talking about a conflict in particular between the government and the people. They're not going to become a part of the government and be a part of that fight for the government. Yeah. So that's issue number one. Number two, over somewhere around, I don't want to say over, but I've heard over, but I haven't seen them. According to ICE themselves and Border Patrol, somewhere around half of their officers are of Latin descent. So while Mother Jones is trying to make this out to be some sort of white supremacy, white power, white nationalist, America First thing, the people who are actually on the ground engaging in these operations, that ain't who they are.
No. And listen, in the recruiting memo, they forgot that part. People that speak Spanish. That's a plus.
Right. Because so many of the people, at least a disproportionate number of the people who are in the country illegally happen to be Spanish speakers. Not necessarily Mexican, but they happen to be Spanish speakers.
Bilingual or multilingual people is what they want.
There you go. But they happen to be from Venezuela, from Honduras, from El Salvador, from Mexico. Not just one country, but yeah, you need someone who speaks multiple languages. But I just, this whole attempt, and once again, truth really has nothing to do with anything that the left does. It's all about them promoting their propaganda. And the only way in which they can come against the government and make all of this make sense is by, accusing, everybody with whom they disagree, patriotic people, people who believe in Judeo-Christian values, white men in particular, Christian white men, especially straight Christian white men, most definitely, of all coming together and being the evil, white supremacy, American white nationalists that are seeking to put an end to the rest of the country. And it doesn't take much to undo this narrative. But when you're someone who only gets their news from Mother Jones, when you're someone who only gets their news from the Trace, you start to believe stuff like this.
Yeah, it's like getting your news from Snopes. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. The only time I believe Snopes is when they go against the liberal narrative. Because I'm like, all right, they're a bunch of liberal left-wing wackos. Why would they lie and hurt their own cause?
Well, I think the two of them there, because it's two people that have a cat and they sit around and they think they get in a fight and one of them just does it to make the other mad.
Okay. Now, you own a cat, right?
Yeah, but there's a difference between a cat lady owning a cat and having a cat.
Okay. just checking.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, one word, just like it is right up there. Get your Hog Holster today. Our first two are going to come to you from our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. Says here, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons recommends no longer doing those surgeries that no one is doing.
Oh, good, because I was planning on not getting one done, so that works out.
Right. Now, for those of you out there who do not know why that is funny, because the people in that industry constantly say, well, those surgeries never happen, except they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along. This is from the Grammys. Room full of pedophiles protests ICE deporting pedophiles.
Yeah, if it wasn't true, it wouldn't be funny.
Yes. If it was not true, it would not be funny. And it is true. Therefore, it is funny. And here's a little bit of truth. And this is a little bit of truth from folks on the other side of the pond. If you ever wondered why President Trump seems to lack respect for European leaders, I think this European leader, I don't know who exactly this guy is saying this, but I think he points out a very, very good point as to why President Trump has issues with many of the leaders there in Europe.
The reason that Trump treats European leaders like this is because he thinks they're weak. And if we want that to stop happening, there's only one thing we need to do, which is to build up our own defences, because in the end, he is not going to respect people who can't defend themselves. And I think this is the thing that really sticks in many people's throats, the contrast in the way Donald Trump treats Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, and actually Netanyahu in Israel, with respect.
Is that because they're strong men?
And the way he treats European leaders with contempt. And that is because we are weak.
That's a lot of truth. That's a truth bomb right there.
Yeah, listen, it's not just because they're strong men, like she tried to point out and take it away from him. It's because they're strong men and believe in providing for their own defense.
Well, exactly. You have to respect a nation that can defend themselves. You can't just, it's kind of like anything else. If you know someone can't defend themselves, they can't defend themselves, or then they can't defend their family. The lack of respect that he will show them. And it's not necessarily because he's trying to be mean to them. His just whole thing is you want us to put our economy on the line so that you can be defended. You want us to put our soldiers on the ground. You want us to You want us to take all the risk to defend you, while at the same time you want to lecture us on how we need to treat everybody else. Nah, you don't get to do that.
It's the same as in the 2A community, right, Craig? When you and I have to listen to the liberals talk about they're never going to have a gun in their house, and they'll just talk to the bad guy and he'll go away. Yeah, okay. Don't call me when it goes bad.
Right. Exactly. Don't call me when it goes bad. Or, you know, we all have those friends. Well, man, if it goes down, I'm coming to your house. Like, no, don't come to my house. You get your house in order.
Yeah.
You have the ability to do exactly what you can buy you have the right to buy all the same stuff that I have. You have the right to you don't just have the right, you have the responsibility to take care of yourself. Right? Yeah. But, you know, I know that at times they're just joking, but I also know their level of preparedness, and I'm like, no. The only people that are for sure going to be welcome over here are people who are bringing stuff with them, right? Yep. Or my family.
That's it.
That's it. That y'all are welcome. The rest of y'all,
with the family, it's like some of them, you know.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: the some that are you better be bringing something.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors.
That's right. Say hi to our friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. They got AR barrels, rifle caliber, pistol caliber, any length you desire for your next AR build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. And if you want the best in tactical concealed gear, tactical gear on the market, field gear, web gear, law enforcement, security, fire, EMS, whatever it may be, get your group together, get your agency together, place an order at uscombatgear.com. where you can get everything except the gun.
And want to remind you folks, coming up 17 days and counting, 2 weeks from this upcoming Saturday, the 9th annual 2A Freedom Fest taking place in Summerfield, Florida. You're going to want to be there because it's going to be some of the folks, some of the premier gun rights activists from across the country will be there in media, people who are in the industry, people who are working in government in order to help protect your right to keep and bear arms. You're going to want to be there to hear what they have to say. Come on out. We'll love to hang out with you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. We will see you mañana.